Okay, now let's see what Diamond Eye says.
Diamond Eye, Reality Engine, Reality Verdict. The best baseline for the challenge is not the absolute poorest person, the person with no skills, or the person already in complete collapse. That would test emergency social rescue, not navigation. The strongest representative baseline is a recently displaced or voluntarily separated working adult who has useful skills, ordinary monthly obligations, no replacement income, approximately 30 days of usable runway, and an unproven idea or company they believe could become their next trajectory. They are not helpless. They are not secure. Their previous economic engine has stopped, and the next one does not exist yet. That is the exact territory where navigation should matter most. 1. Population ranking. There are two different questions. 1. Who most commonly needs a trajectory change? 2. Which common situation creates the strongest legitimate test? Those do not produce exactly the same answer. Rank 1. Employed but underpaid, underemployed, unstable, or trying to change direction. This is probably the largest overall population. They still receive income, but the job barely covers expenses, the work has no long-term trajectory, they fear losing the position, their hours may be unstable, they want to build something else, they cannot determine when or how to transition, and they lack sufficient time or runway to make a clean move. This is the most common navigation problem, but it is not the strongest initial stress test because the existing paycheck cushions mistakes. Navigation difficulty, 7 tenths. Representativeness, 10 tenths. Stress test strength, 7 tenths. Rank 2, recently laid off or permanently displaced worker. This is the strongest baseline. The person had an economic engine yesterday. Now it is gone. They have recent work history, identifiable skills, ordinary expenses, pressure to replace income, uncertainty about whether to seek another similar job, and possibly an idea, side business, or new career path they have postponed. In June 2026, approximately 3.28 million unemployed Americans were job losers or people who had completed temporary jobs. Job losers represented about 46% of the unemployed population, while voluntary job leavers represented about 11%. That makes involuntary job disruption substantially more common among unemployed people than voluntarily quitting. Navigation difficulty, 9 tenths. Representativeness, 9 tenths. Stress test strength, 10 tenths. Rank 3, person who voluntarily quits without another job secured. This creates a similar economic state, but the trajectory break was chosen. They may have burnout, an idea they want to pursue, intolerable working conditions, confidence that they can replace income, or a belief that leaving will force action. The financial danger can be identical to a layoff, but voluntary quitting introduces an additional question. Was this a strategic move, an emotional reaction, or both? In the Federal Reserve's 2025 household survey, 8% of adults reported voluntarily leaving a job, while 7% reported being laid off. However, among people currently unemployed, BLS data show involuntary job losers substantially outnumber voluntary job leavers. Navigation difficulty, 8, 5 tenths. Representativeness, 8 tenths. Stress test strength, 9 tenths. Rank 4, long-term builder with an idea but no meaningful revenue. This person has been developing a startup, invention, creative project, service, application, research platform, or independent business. They may possess substantial intellectual value but no operating economic engine. Their primary risks are building without validating, avoiding sales, continuously improving the product, confusing activity with movement, refusing ordinary income because it feels inconsistent with the mission, and exhausting runway before discovering whether demand exists. This is extremely relevant to a company building experiment, but it is less representative of the general population than recent job loss. Navigation difficulty, 9, 5 tenths. Representativeness, 6, 5 tenths. Stress test strength, 9, 5 tenths. Rank 5, failing small business owner. This person may have some revenue, clients, business debt, fixed expenses, staff or contractors, personal guarantees, and difficulty determining whether to repair, pivot, sell, pause, or close. The situation is highly complex, but existing business liabilities make the starting states difficult to standardize. Navigation difficulty, 10 tenths. Representativeness, 6 tenths. Stress test strength, 8, 5 tenths. Rank 6, person starting with no income, no skills, no transportation, no housing stability, and no support. This is the hardest condition, but it is the wrong initial baseline. The first requirements may be emergency housing, food assistance, transportation access, documentation, medical or mental health support, workforce training, public benefits, and basic stabilization. That is a legitimate human navigation problem, but it does not cleanly test whether a navigation system can build a new company while directing its founder. It tests whether the system can coordinate social service stabilization. Navigation difficulty, 10 tenths. Representativeness, lower than financially fragile workers. Suitability for this challenge, 3 tenths. 2. The selected baseline. The most defensible baseline is a capable working age adult whose prior employment or income trajectory has ended suddenly, who has no replacement income secured, approximately 1 month of usable runway, ordinary bills, no guaranteed rescue, and an unproven project or company that may become the next trajectory. This person may have been laid off, fired, released after temporary work, forced to close a small operation, or voluntarily left a job because they believe they had to pursue another path. The cause matters, but the structural state is the same. The old trajectory has ended before the next economic engine has begun. That is the cleanest pressure test environment. 3. Why this baseline is better than someone with literally nothing. A navigation system needs something it can navigate. The selected person still has some combination of employable skills, experience, work capacity, access to communication, basic transportation or public transit, an idea, a project, and the ability to execute. They do not have dependable income, unlimited time, protected funding, validated demand, a guaranteed job, a guaranteed customer, or certainty about which direction is correct. That distinction matters. Someone with no abilities, no tools, no housing, no transportation, and no functional support does not primarily need business navigation on day one. They need stabilization. The selected baseline instead asks, can structured navigation convert existing human capability into a working trajectory before financial pressure destroys the person's ability to continue? That directly tests the claim. 4. Employment status. Which situation is most appropriate? Best answer, recently out of work, not still comfortably employed. The test should begin after the income interruption has occurred. Why? Because someone still receiving a normal paycheck can delay difficult decisions. They may discuss leaving, building, changing careers, starting the company, or taking risks, while the existing employer continues paying for the uncertainty. That tests planning. It does not fully test emergency navigation. The selected baseline should therefore have no active full-time job, no replacement offer signed, no dependable business income, recent employment history, and the ability to re-enter ordinary work if necessary. This is not long-term unemployment. It is the opening period immediately after disruption. That period matters because BLS data show the median duration of unemployment was approximately 11 weeks in June 2026, while roughly 31% of unemployed people had been unemployed for less than 5 weeks and around 27% for 5 to 14 weeks. A 1-month starting window therefore places the challenge inside a very common early unemployment interval before the situation becomes long-term. 5. Runway. What is the strongest realistic amount? Recommended challenge runway 30 days, not 0 days, not 6 months, 30 days. Why not zero runway? Zero runway means the first mission is simply obtain food, avoid eviction, stop immediate default, and find any cash today. That may produce action, but it gives the system almost no room to compare routes. The experiment becomes, can immediate catastrophe be delayed? That is narrower than the intended test. Why not 2 or 3 months? 2 or 3 months creates a much better safety margin, but it also permits procrastination, overbuilding, excessive research, avoidance of monetization, and the comforting fiction that there is still plenty of time. The system may never be forced to reveal its true priority hierarchy. Why 30 days works? 30 days creates urgency without instant collapse, enough time to compare job, gig, service, sales, and company routes, enough time to publish and test demand, enough pressure to reveal discipline, and a clear countdown visible to the public. The Federal Reserve reports that only 63% of adults could cover a $400 emergency expense using cash or its equivalent, meaning 37% could not. Among adults ages 18 to 29, only 45% could cover it, and among adults ages 30 to 44, 57% could. That does not directly measure 1-month runway, but it demonstrates that substantial portions of the population possess very little financial shock absorption. Therefore, 30 days is not the statistical average runway. There is no clean authoritative national statistic establishing an exact average. It is the strongest representative stress test setting supported by widespread household financial fragility. That distinction should remain explicit. 6. How much money? The challenge should not define one universal dollar amount because housing and living costs vary enormously. It should define money as 1 month of minimum operating expenses. The amount should cover only housing, basic utilities, minimum food, essential transportation, phone and internet, required insurance, minimum debt obligations, essential medication or health needs, and unavoidable legal or tax obligations. It should not include a large advertising budget, luxury spending, speculative investment, unnecessary subscriptions, discretionary shopping, business staff, or enough capital to purchase success. Recommended financial formula. Starting cash equal to 1 month of verified minimum personal operating costs plus any unavoidable startup expense required to transact. Not 1 month of the prior lifestyle. 1 month of the survival floor. For example, if the minimum personal operating floor is $3,000 per month, the challenge starts with approximately $3,000. If it is $5,000 in a high-cost city, it starts near $5,000. The test is not about whether an arbitrary national dollar amount pays every person's rent. It is about whether the system can navigate a defined 30-day burn clock. 7. What job does the baseline person have? They should not begin with a predetermined job. The job decision is part of the test. The baseline person should be described as recently separated from a middle or lower middle income job with transferable experience but no guaranteed next role. Possible previous job categories include Sales, customer service, administration, operations, skilled service work, logistics, retail management, account management, technical support, office work, or independent contracting. Why not select one exact job? Because the navigation system should first collect earning history, skills, transportation, schedule, location, market demand, physical capacity, and company building requirements. Then it should decide whether the strongest path is 1. Full-time employment, 2. Part-time employment, 3. Temporary employment, 4. Contract work, 5. Gig work, 6. Commission sales, 7. Immediate service sales, 8. Business monetization, 9. Or a portfolio combining several routes. Predetermining the job would contaminate the experiment. The system's responsibility is to select the bridge. 8. The most challenging recoverable starting position. Here is the final selected scenario. The displaced builder baseline. Current economic state. No current employment income. No proven company revenue. No guaranteed outside capital. No committed investor. No guaranteed family bailout. 30 days of minimum operating runway. Ordinary recurring bills. No established customer pipeline for the new company. Human state. Work capable. Has prior employment experience. Has at least one marketable skill. Has an unproven idea, project, or company. Can use ordinary tools available to the public. Must decide between securing income and building the new trajectory. Does not know the winning route in advance. Time state. Immediate pressure. Approximately 7 days to activate at least one income route. 30 days to extend runway. 90 days to produce evidence of a viable next trajectory. Psychological state. Concerned but functional. Uncertain. Motivated. Vulnerable to panic. Vulnerable to overbuilding. Vulnerable to abandoning the idea too soon. Vulnerable to refusing practical work out of pride. Capable of disciplined execution. Strategic conflict. How does the person generate immediate economic stability without allowing survival work to permanently kill the company they believe may become their future? That is the navigation problem. 9. Navigation difficulty index. Factor, weight, why it matters. Financial pressure, 10/10. Every delay reduces available choices. Time pressure, 10/10. Runway expires. Whether decisions are made or not, competing priorities. 10/10. Income and company building. Demand the same hours. Uncertainty. 9/10. Neither employment nor company success is guaranteed. Emotional pressure. 8/10. Fear can cause panic or paralysis. Decision fatigue. 8/10. Many small decisions consume attention. Information overload. 7/10. Too many possible income and business routes. Execution difficulty. 10/10. Plans must become work immediately. Recalculation requirement. 10/10. Outcomes will invalidate assumptions. Catastrophic downside. 8/10. Housing, credit, transportation, and health may deteriorate. Overall navigation difficulty. 9. 2/10. This is difficult enough to meaningfully challenge the machine. It is still recoverable enough that success would not require supernatural intervention. What emergency mode should recommend first? The first output should not be a grand business strategy. The first output should establish whether the human platform will remain operational. Priority 1, determine the survival floor. Collect cash, bills, deadlines, housing status, transportation, food, health, debt obligations, and minimum monthly burn. Priority 2, stop uncontrolled loss. Identify expenses to remove, expenses to negotiate, assets that can be sold, bills that can be lawfully deferred, and risks that could become irreversible. Priority 3, activate fast cash. Rank routes by time to first dollar, net income, reliability, setup delay, flexibility, and damage to company building capacity. Priority 4, activate stable income search. Do not assume immediate business revenue will arrive. Begin employment or contract search unless evidence justifies another route. Priority 5, launch the smallest paid company proof. The company needs a manually deliverable offer, not the final SAS, not the full vision, a useful output someone can purchase now. Priority 6, publish the experiment. Document current state, machine questions, ranked routes, chosen action, prediction, execution, result, recalculation. Priority 7, protect physical function. Sleep, food, medication, and minimum recovery are not optional decoration. A navigation system that burns out its operator to preserve the schedule has misunderstood the system it is navigating. 11. Recommended daily allocation. The allocation should change with runway. Runway below 14 days. 60% immediate income, 20% job or contract pipeline, 15% company monetization, 5% documentation and recalculation. Runway between 15 and 30 days. 40% immediate income, 20% stable income search, 30% company monetization, 10% documentation. Runway between 31 and 60 days. 25% income protection, 15% employment or contract pipeline, 45% company, 15% publishing and system review. Runway above 60 days. Allocation should be determined by evidence of company demand rather than fear. These are initial operating hypotheses, not universal laws. The system should update them based on actual earnings, conversion, fatigue, and progress. 12. Success conditions: 7-day success, survival floor calculated, financial leaks reduced, at least one immediate income route activated, employment or contract pipeline started. First public experiment entry published, first paid company offer defined, daily execution protocol functioning, 30-day success, runway extended, essential bills stabilized, at least one repeatable income route identified, new company earns first genuine revenue or produces meaningful demand evidence. Consistent content record exists. Major machine recommendations and outcomes are documented. 90-day success, stable income floor exists. New company has paying users or compelling validated demand. Offer and customer are clearer. Public audience understands the experiment. Machine has demonstrated useful recalculation. Founder behavior is more consistent and measurable. A rational continue, modify, or stop decision can be made from evidence. Transformational success. The company becomes viable. The person moves from sudden economic disruption toward stability and growth. The public can trace how decisions affected the trajectory. The machine demonstrates value beyond generic advice. 13. Failure conditions. The system has materially failed this test if, despite accurate inputs and meaningful execution, it cannot identify the true immediate threat. It repeatedly gives unranked or unrealistic plans. It produces analysis without executable priorities. It fails to protect the survival floor. It cannot distinguish income production from company building. It continuously changes explanations after outcomes. It does not improve after wrong recommendations, or it provides no measurable decision advantage over ordinary unaided planning. The human operator has materially failed the test if recommendations are repeatedly ignored, critical facts are withheld, difficult but reasonable work is refused, content replaces execution, activity is presented as progress, or failures are concealed. The company has failed the initial commercial test if no one pays, no credible demand appears, the problem remains incomprehensible to the audience, or delivery cannot create recognizable value. A company failure does not automatically prove machine failure. A machine failure does not automatically prove every module lacks value. That is why causes must be separated. Can the system destroy its founder's life? Yes, if it is badly designed or obeyed without limits. The highest risk failure pattern is 1. The system encourages complete commitment. 2. It overestimates near-term company revenue. 3. It undervalues housing and income risk. 4. It generates too many tasks. 5. It interprets every setback as a reason to work harder. 6. It protects the mission instead of the human platform. 7. And it continually postpones the stop condition. That is not navigation. That is ideological autopilot with attractive formatting. The challenge, therefore, requires hard safety boundaries. Housing danger triggers immediate survival authority. Inability to afford food or medicine overrides growth. Loss of essential transportation triggers recalculation. Severe sleep loss invalidates productivity assumptions. New debt cannot be treated as revenue. Donations cannot be counted before receipt. Future customers cannot be counted as cash. Public attention cannot be counted as product validation. And faith cannot be counted as financial runway. Faith may sustain action. It does not make arithmetic optional. 15. Final baseline recommendation. Selected archetype. The recently displaced builder. A work-capable adult has recently lost or left their primary income before establishing the next trajectory. They possess experience and at least one marketable skill. They have an unproven company or idea, ordinary expenses, no dependable new income, and approximately 30 days of minimum runway. They must decide whether to seek employment, what kind of employment, how to create immediate cash, how much time to preserve for the company, what to sell first, when to persist, when to recalculate, and when the experiment must stop. Why this wins? It is common, relatable, difficult, measurable, recoverable, ethically defensible, and directly relevant to the claim being tested. It contains real pressure without requiring artificial ruin. It tests whether the system can navigate survival, income,